Hello, welcome to Venture Capital with me, Katie Pilbeam. As you can probably tell from behind me, the gorgeous mountains, we are indeed in Switzerland this week for the Davos World Economic Forum. Now, for the last 4 days, the world's most privileged money movers, they've been promising and pledging, but as is with the case with Davos most years, no policies set in place. We've had the British Prime Minister David Cameron talking about reshoring jobs back to Britain, Iran's leader Hassan Rouhani wooing investors for a post-sanction era, and a bit of Tinseltown too with Goldie Hawn teaching us all about the importance of meditation. Now, in amongst these themes, we had surveillance, global warming, the masters of the universe in between their smoke canapes and gulps of champagne. They weren't too focused on the global financial recovery. It seemed to take a bit of a backseat this year. Now, forgive me, but we're not exactly in a booming economy just now. So is there a sense of complacency coming into this? Well, I spoke to the head of the OECD and I asked him what concerns him the most.
Complacency. The fact that people feel comfortable, that they have lost the fear, that they have lost a sense of urgency, and that they think we're out of the woods yet. We're not out of the woods. Growth is very slow. Unemployment is historically high. Inequalities are growing. There's a great loss of trust in everything that we have built in 100 years, in all our institutions. So we're not out of the woods yet. The crisis is not over. So let's continue to work hard. Don't feel complacent.
Now, one theme that ran through the Davos Forum was income inequality and the dangers that can come from it. The rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer. Davos is the highest part of Europe, and it's the place where the global elite come here to discuss how to enrich themselves and, of course, improve the lives of the 99% that live down below. Now, Davos has tried to erase that image this year of the hierarchy system by introducing the topic of income inequality, which the forum said was the biggest threat to the global economy right now. But, you know, when you've got 80 billionaires in attendance, it's quite difficult to take that one seriously, and there's a certain element of irony to that. And according to the latest Oxfam report, half of the world's poorest population, that's 3.5 billion people, now have the same amount of wealth as the 85 richest people. Now, added to that, the 1% richest now have an accumulated wealth of $110 trillion. That's 65% more than the world's poorest. And from up here, it's difficult to imagine how those people will become a priority for the people of Davos. Well, we are all equal in the eyes of God, no matter how many millions or billions that we might have stashed away in the bank. And at this time of year, the whole of Davos gets involved in the financial forum. Even the church itself, year after year, economists and politicians would come here praying for a solution to the financial crisis. Now, I caught up with the Nobel Prize winning economist Robert Shiller on the problem. Here's what he had to say.
There should be a recognition that we need some inequality because people won't work if they think their income doesn't depend on it. And I think it's okay to have billionaires, actually. For people who invent a new computer system, people don't really begrudge them, but there has to be some limit. And we don't want, there's a problem that some of the most wealthy people don't look like the most deserving people. The issue that's really driving a lot of concern now is the rising inequality at the top, especially in the United States, where the top 1% or the top 1/10 of 1%, and they tend to be in finance and are making a huge amount of profits now. And one thing that's pointed to is that they're lobbying the government and making it easier for them to continue doing that. The economy has to belong to the people, and we have to work on preventing excesses like that.
Now, one way to solve the problem could be to tax the rich. So I bumped into the CEO of Ernst & Young here on the streets of Davos, and I proposed this option to him.
There is a general acceptance that the rich need to pay more, and income inequality is an issue, and that's something that we all need to contribute to. Having said that, if we push it too far and remove the incentive to work, remove the incentive for entrepreneurship, then we're going to head in the opposite direction. So, like everything in life, there's a balance.
Last year, you were quite vocal about tax evasion. You said that the rules weren't fit for purpose. There has been some progress in the last year. Are they still not quite up to scratch?
Oh, there's definitely been progress, and I think many countries are focused on this. And the important thing is countries are working together, which I think is very, very healthy. But what we do continue to see is that countries compete around tax. So it's something I've heard many times over the last few days here at Davos, is come to our country, invest in our country, because the tax rates are lower. And as long as that continues, we will see companies organising their affairs in a way that allows them to pay less in terms of where they set up their operations.
So I suppose the only answer to that is every single country in the whole world agreeing, which is probably unlikely.
Certainly not in my lifetime.
Now, as well as income inequality, gender inequality was one of the themes this year, with just 16% of the participants being women. So I caught up with the Vice President of Manpower, Mara Swan, and I asked her why so few women.
Part of it's the structure, because the level of the people that need to attend. So until businesses improve the number of people in the C-suite, it's very difficult for Davos. So they're actually just representing what's happening in the C-suite today. So that's part of the problem, and we can't change that until we see business change it.
Now, one woman that helped make up this 16% was the finance minister of Nigeria. And one theme that comes up year after year is the BRICS and the question of whether or not they still have the dynamism that they once had when they were put together. So I questioned her whether the Mint countries, which is Mexico, Indonesia, Nigeria and Turkey, well, if those countries are ready to take over from the BRICS.
Absolutely. I hate to describe it as the new BRIC, but it's its own thing, but I think it has an equally valid state of being. If you look at the countries, these are countries that you cannot afford to ignore in the future. You can't ignore Indonesia or Turkey with its characteristics, or Mexico or Nigeria, because these countries, Nigeria will be the 4th largest country in the world by 2050. It's going to have a huge market. It has vast resources. You look at Indonesia, the same thing. Large population, big market in the future. It's going to be powerful. Turkey, has its characteristics of being both in Europe and Asia. It's very strategically important. And Mexico, of course, is now, as a middle-income country, at the cutting edge of several of the things that BRICS and Mint need to do well in terms of social protection and so on. So yes, I think this grouping has its own dynamic, and we're excited to be in it.
Now, Russia is, of course, one of the BRIC nations, and Davos is a great opportunity for Russia to come here and warm up the international image. Of course, you've got an audience of influence and fat wallets. Now, one of the themes this year was a loss of trust in the banking system. So with Russia revoking 32 licenses from its banks in just 6 months, I caught up with the head of VTB, the second largest lender in Russia, and I asked him about the clampdown.
If you take even the World Economic Forum report, which was prepared before this meeting, one of the weak points of Russian investment climate was mentioned that relative weakness of the Russian banking sector. And this is because we still have quite a number of very weak financial institutions and banks. So we are very much supporting the policy of the central bank. Those banks, though it was, I think, 30 licenses withdrawn this year, it only represents 1% of the banking, of the retail deposits and assets. So it doesn't very much affect the banking sector, I think, but it's clear up, and it's less dangerous or less risky for both corporates and people to work with such banks. So I think it's a very healthy process. It's cleaning up the Russian banking sector.
Now, seeing as we are in a ski resort here in Davos and we've got the Sochi Winter Olympic Games just days away, which Russia is hoping will give a boost to the economy, I caught up with the biggest investor into the Games, the Russian billionaire Viktor Vekselberg, and I asked him why he invested so much money.
Sochi is a very particular situation, for Russia, because this is absolutely unique opportunity together with government to be part of development unique clusters, touristic, sports, because I personally believe this is one of the beautiful place which has unique the climates, the mountains next to sea beach and very lovely nature. And I think we invest because we believe that after Olympic Games, it will be new life of that region.
So another Davos done and dusted for another year. All the ego stroking and self-congratulating is over, as well as the fondue and the vol au vents. Now, it's time for me to go and see if I can learn to ski, as well as try and spot the likes of Jamie Dimon up on those ski slopes, whizzing around on his diamond-encrusted skis, no doubt. Goodbye from Davos.